Welcome to this episode of Cartomancy for History's Mysteries, where we use the cards to take a look at mysteries, true crimes, and unexplained things from history. Today, we're going to be looking at the conspiracy theory that argues or asserts that Queen Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen of England, was really a guy. Now, I do, when I can, try to lay the cards out in front of you in the videos so that you can see them as I'm pulling them, so that you know that I'm not making them fall in any certain particular way. However, I wanted to do this grand tableau for this particular conspiracy theory, and with my setup for recording, it's a hot mess to try to do that on camera. So I decided to spare you guys that. I already asked about today's mystery and laid out the spread for you. Now, if you are not familiar with this, this is the Maybe Lenormand, and this is, you might notice if you read Lenormand, a little bit bigger than your usual grand tableau. This is the Maybe Lenormand's 52 card grand tableau. We will not be reading all of this, just the pertinent bits in this video, but I just felt like this would be a good spread to use for this particular history's mystery conspiracy theory video. So, if you haven't heard this conspiracy theory, know that these readings are for entertainment purposes only. They are not to be considered a historical source of information. This is just something we do for fun. But that said, when it comes to giving you the details of the mystery we're looking at, I do try to be as factual and accurate as I can. So here's how the story of this conspiracy theory goes. Back when the bubonic plague was happening and it was hitting London, Henry VIII sent his daughter Elizabeth I out into the country to Bisley, I believe it's pronounced. And he had this married couple taking care of her, and she was supposed to wait things out there where she would be, quote unquote, safe from the plague. Now, as the legend conspiracy theory goes, she wasn't. She wound up getting sick and succumbing either to the plague or something else. It's not always agreed upon in the conspiracy theory. And the people who were watching her and the town as a whole decided that they were not going to tell Henry VIII that Elizabeth had died. Now, Henry VIII wasn't super close with his kiddos, Elizabeth included, so when he announced that he was coming to the town to visit her and check up on her, they decided that they still were not going to tell him that she had died, and that they were going to find someone to sort of take her place and pose as Elizabeth. But they couldn't find a girl who fit the bill. However, they found a playmate of Elizabeth's. Some sources say his name was Neville, and he fit sort of the build and that of Elizabeth. He was a friend of hers, so he knew a lot about her, and he could sort of imitate how she behaved and acted, and he knew personal information about her. So they dressed him up as 10-year-old Elizabeth, and they did such a great job that he convinced he was Elizabeth. But the ruse didn't end there. It actually went on for the rest of Elizabeth's life. And Elizabeth ruled England from November 17th, 1558 until March 24th, 1603. So for all those years, the conspiracy theory asserts that this was not really Elizabeth, that Elizabeth had died at the age of 10, and that this man had then spent the age of 10 on posing as Elizabeth so that no one would be none the wiser and notice that she had passed away. Is there any evidence for this? Where does this idea come from? Why do some people still believe it today? I'm not exactly sure where the exact moment this was begun was, but it's a long time conspiracy theory. One of the reasons that we know about it is because Bram Stoker, the man who wrote Dracula, actually wrote about it. He apparently wrote a book about famous imposters, and in that he included the Queen Elizabeth I imposter story. Is there any evidence to support this? I really, in reading about this and hearing about this, haven't found anything that really goes, oh, yeah, this is credible. I can see why some people have made things fit the theory, but I don't think we have anything that we can really say this is a good theory. Now, even though I don't feel that there's a whole lot of evidence to give this conspiracy theory credence, there are some historians who argue that this was in fact the case. Now, here's a few things that they point towards. Bram Stoker did a little bit of research and wrote his book, and so they kind of see him as sort of someone to not necessarily validate the story, but sort of lend a little bit of credence to it. I don't know that I feel the same way about that, but that's how some other people feel. They also point to a quote that Queen Elizabeth said at one point in her life, and I'm just going to summarize it here. I'm not going to find the actual quote at the moment. But basically, the long and short of it is that she said that inside her is the heart of a man, not a woman. So they feel that that perhaps was her giving away the secret, so to speak. The couple that was in charge of caring for her when she was in that little town then became very close advisors to Queen Elizabeth. The woman, in fact, became the maid who was solely responsible for dressing, bathing, um, doing the makeup of Queen Elizabeth. She was very particular on what she looked like when she was seen by anyone, the elaborate dresses, the elaborate makeup. She insisted that she always had to wear a wig. She could never be seen without one. These are things that people point to also to indicate that Queen Elizabeth I was trying to hide that she was really a he and not even Elizabeth at all. And there is also the fact that she never married. She had proposals from all different men of royalty in different countries, and she turned them all down. She is referred to as the Virgin Queen, but I think we can pretty much all agree that that's propaganda. We all know that she was not a Virgin Queen. In fact, we do know that she had some lovers who were men. So that begs the question, if we give any credence to the story, then were these, was it same-sex relationships and we were just sort of keeping the face of she was a she? But that really, we know a lot of the royal family and royalty throughout British history had same-sex lovers. Somebody would have most likely blabbed if that was the case over the years, so that doesn't really sort of hold any weight for me. Why did she never marry? Why did she turn down every potential suitor and offer that came along that she could have married these other royal men? I don't know, but that's one thing that people add into this mix, that she never had a child, that she never married. There can be a lot of reasons for that, though, but these are all things that they point to. Another claim is that they claim in the conspiracy theory that they buried her body near the house where she had been staying. And apparently, from what I can find, there really was the grave, an unmarked grave of a little girl found near there in that town that they have not identified. Supposedly she was about the right age and build, etc., and she was very well dressed. Things that you would expect from someone of a very high station in England. And so, because there are reports that this body of a small girl was found in these extravagant clothes, they point to that and say that that is actually the body of Elizabeth I, and say that this gives credence. Now, if we could prove that that was her body, that would be one thing, but I have not found anything that says that it has even been sort of like not confirmed, because obviously it has not been confirmed through DNA or anything, but I can't find anywhere that says that they even feel that there's enough information or evidence to even pursue trying to identify her as Elizabeth I. So, while I would love to just see her identified for the sake of her being identified and properly laid to rest and having a marked grave, just because that body was found, I don't know that we can then make the leap to saying that was Elizabeth the First. But that is the conspiracy theory, that she was really this boy, this playmate of hers, that took her place after she died around the age of 10, and it was actually him who ruled the country of England during her reign, and that it was all this big conspiracy theory. So let's go ahead and look at the cards. Now, just to try to give you a little bit of an overview, when I glanced over at this, I do not see anything in the cards. We're just going to cut to the chase. I don't see anything in here saying that a boy took her place. However, I do see some interesting things that sort of make us ask more questions, perhaps, and sort of indicate that there might be a grain of truth to part of the story. Because I grew up on the expression that there's a grain of truth in every myth, and I think that there might be a grain of truth here. So I used the significator of the lady to represent Elizabeth I, because whether she was a she or a he, that is how the person presented in history, as a female, as a lady, and so that is why I chose to use that significator. You'll notice that the gentleman is over here, and there's really nothing around to indicate a swapping of them, or one person replacing another. Nothing to indicate that. But what I did find interesting is that in her past, because we're asking about at age 10, was she switched with a boy? We do have here in her past, though, we've got the coffin and the scythe. And to me, this little row here of past, along with these three cards that can indicate the past as well, we've got the mice, the scythe, and we've got the cross, which is a burden or a great weight. I have to ask or infer from this that the part of the myth that says that she got sick while she was in that little village could very likely be true. Now, I don't see her dying, because she does go on after the age of 10. There's a future after the age of 10. So I don't see that she passed, but I do have to ask if she got seriously ill. And there's some things in here. If we look at the sick bed, and around the sick bed and the visit, and then we've got the stork for movement, and that I kind of have to wonder if this at 10 years old, if it didn't really shape her, if it didn't really change her perspective on things, and sort of open some ideas and some doors, and a longing for her for a certain lifestyle. We've got the pig down here. I know that's hard to see as comfort and luxury. So I wonder how much that sort of shaped her worldview, this illness. I wonder if perhaps she didn't come close to death. I mean, 10 years old, it's such an impressionable time. It's such a young time in her life. But I really do think from these cards that she did the part of the myth that she got sick while she was there and seriously ill. I think it could have some validity to it. We've got, things, danger, things being eaten away, the burden. We've got the coffin back there for loss. We've got the lilies, joys way in the past. And then we've got um, some words about domestic travel and things, which could be the message that her father Henry VIII was coming to visit. The interesting thing in these present cards here is that she had a choice about an agreement. And another thing that people say is they say that that couple that cared for her and then were very like integral and high up in her inner circle when she was queen, they say that they clearly had some sort of pact. There was something that they were hiding, there was something that was going on. And this card can indicate, the heart can indicate yes. And we've got this agreement, this handshake, this pact. It was a decision that was made. Yes, there was a decision that was made. There was some sort of pact and agreement. And this agreement happens early on. Probably not at the age of 10. Elizabeth I probably doesn't have the wherewithal at 10 to do this. Like, the stage is set for it at this point in time. And then we see that there's luck with this arrangement. They are very loyal to her and help her build her house, her empire. I mean, this could represent England as a whole in this particular case. But they are very helpful to her, and there is some sort of pact and agreement between them and her. Or at least that's the way it looks to me. Again, different people can interpret things differently. But that is what I am getting from this. And again, I think that this sickbed here, I think that there definitely was something going on. I think she definitely was a patient. She was sick. And that really gave her a longing that then opened up a certain way of thinking for her. One of the important cards that I wanted to look for in this spread was the snake. Now, in some more, I don't know if I want to say traditional, but there are certain schools of thought in Lenormand that the snake can represent another woman. I generally take that as a looser translation interpretation, and I just say another person. I don't assign a gender there. But for me, I kind of had, said in my mind as I was doing this, that if there was a change from her to this boy, that we would see the snake card up with her, that we would see another person up there. And we don't. It's all the way down here. But what is super interesting is I think that the position of it clearly tells us that she was not switched with a boy, or anyone else for that matter. Because if you're talking about the switching of her, even if she wasn't actually switched with a boy, if there's some truth to the story, then she could have been switched with another girl. I don't feel, from where things are in this spread and the fact that we do have, clearly she continues on, I don't see that she was switched with anyone. I don't see that she died at the age of 10. I see that she continued to go on. But I really do think that these cards indicate that she was, in fact, sick. And it was a significant illness that had an impact on her. But it's interesting the snake is down here next to the ring, because one of the things about her is that she never married. And people have just chewed on that ever since, the time of her reign. It was not acceptable for a woman to not be married. Now, this reading isn't about why she did or didn't marry. It's about whether or not she was switched with someone else. But I find it interesting to note that near the card that would represent marriage, we've got lightning below it, we've got the mountain above it, we've got the moon, and we've got the snake. All of this, when I look at this and sort of take it in, it tells me there was a very good reason why she didn't get married. There was an obstacle. There was something that stood in her way. And this card can mean reputation. This can mean difficulties. And so I think that probably what this is saying is that she had someone that if she was not queen, she probably would have married. But she had made the statement that she was married to her country. I think that her duty as queen meant so much to her. The change that she saw that she could affect in people. Remember, she develops this longing, this vision of what she wants in the future after this illness. And I think that that was so important to her that, in a manner of speaking, that was the obstacle, because that had to come first for her. And romance, marriage was secondary. Because I think it's a situation of, had she followed her heart as far as a person goes, she would have had to have given up the crown, because I don't think that the person that she loved was of a station that she could have kept the throne. And she made the choice from when she was sick that, I mean, we've got the heart right here next to her. You know, there's definitely, her heart was in what she decided back then. And what she decided back then was apparently this vision she had for what she wanted in life. Because at this point in time, she didn't know she would be queen. She was not first in line to the throne. But this, to me, says that she had a vision. She had things she wanted to do. Even if she had not become Queen of England like she did, she still was royal. She still could have had some influence, or tried to have some influence. Remember, women were not exactly allowed to have influence, but she had gotten it in her mind that even though she was a woman, she was going to find a way to make some changes. She was going to find a way to create some things in society, in England, perhaps even in the world as a whole. And that for her was far more important than getting married. That was her priority. And so I really think that that goal, that vision, being sick, having that vision really shaped her, and that's why she didn't get married. But the whole point of this is to see if she had been replaced with someone else. And I really don't see anywhere in here that she had been replaced with anyone else. I see that perhaps there very much was truth to her getting ill, that getting ill shaped her, but then she did continue on as Elizabeth after that point in time. So just a couple other things to point out. The central card in this one, which in this 52 card version is something that you can opt to look at. The central card here is the train, which can represent domestic business. And so I think that really whatever happened when she was sick, even at 10 years old, she saw something, felt something, etc., that made her want to do things for England, for her people. Whatever she did or saw, it made this the priority. We've got the heart right here with it. She saw something was eaten away. Be it her illusions of what England was, or what it meant to be royalty, or what it was like to be a commoner. Something went away as in regard to the domestic situation of the country, and she found this passion for making it right. And you can see that sort of echoed when you look at these two cards in the corner. Her health situation gave her some new ideas and some new perspectives, and she wanted to fight against some of the things that she saw as being wrong. And so it really gave her a lot of resolve to set herself on this course where she was going to make a difference for her country, her people, and herself too. But there you go. That is the conspiracy about Queen Elizabeth possibly have been being replaced with a man in history. And we don't find any, at least in my opinion, any good historical evidence for that. I mean, there are some things that kind of make you go, oh, maybe. But I don't think we have anything really definitive to tip the scales in that direction. And our reading today with the Maybe Lenormand indicates that Queen Elizabeth was in fact Queen Elizabeth, but that perhaps a little bit of the story is true, and that she did get sick as a child, and that it really shaped who she was and what she did throughout her entire life. So I hope you have enjoyed this. If you have any histories, mysteries, or true crime, or just interesting stories from history that we could dive into with the cards, feel free to get a hold of me. You can message me on my social media, or you can leave a comment to this video, and I will keep track of all the suggestions that people make for future Cartomancy for History's Mysteries episodes. Until the next one, blessings.